Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss why a goal without a plan is a wish.
And on our Coaches Corner, we want to discuss the Secure Act of 2019 and how the new changes could impact you and your retirement.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you how to be proactive, not reactive, when it comes to your retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better.
You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches.
I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and applied them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we want to discuss why a goal without a plan is a wish.
That's right, Wendy. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Simply having a goal in mind does not achieve success. Daydreaming alone seldomly will produce results. For instance, a goal to live a happy retirement and make sure your money lasts throughout your lifetime won't simply happen by thinking about it. And this is a simple form of what we call daydreaming. Instead, you have to be proactive and build a plan for your goals so you can live out those goals and enjoy the life that you want. And we often feel it's important to list out all of your goals so they're right there in front of you to see. Once you do that, now you can look at each one of them and decide what type of plan you will put in place to achieve those goals, and most important, take action and put deadlines to those actions.
Well, and I think I want to add to that, there is no time like the present to take action. Because I remember thinking that it seemed like it was so long ago that when my kids were little, oh my gosh, when they're in college or out of college, here I am, I'm going to be an empty nester. The time went by just like that.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I think my goals are still a wish right now. So
Yeah,
that's not a good thing. I need to speed things up. Take action.
No question. You know, if you have a team, I think about with my kids, my team, my office staff. You know, if you want to make sure that you have a goal, then what you want to do is you want to develop a plan of action to accomplish that goal. And then one of the most important things, Wendy, is you have to put a deadline on that goal.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just keep putting it off, you keep procrastinating, and that's why it's so important today. And we talk about procrastinating. One of the things that we're going to talk about here a little later on the show are some changes that are going to affect all of you watching today, and that's the Secure Act of 2019. And that's one thing we're going to get in, and we're going to talk about how those changes may affect you and how you need to be proactive, not reactive, in basically how to approach these new changes and how they'll affect you.
Some important information ahead on this show.
That's right.
Good reason to stay tuned. When we return on the Coaches Corner, we are going to discuss the Secure Act of 2019 and how the new changes could impact you and your retirement. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss the Secure Act of 2019 and how the new changes could impact you and your retirement.
That's right, Wendy. We're all familiar with the term financial planning, right? A financial plan is designed to focus on the accumulation phase of the work life cycle to make sure you have a general but realistic target of how much you'll need after work stops. It also helps ensure that you're saving and investing enough to hit the target when you do retire. In your 20s, 30s, 40s, and maybe even 50s and 60s, most people are doing some sort of financial planning. But do you know that financial planning and retirement planning are completely different? Retirement planning will focus on the expenses after the paycheck stops and how your various assets can generate an income stream that will cover those costs for the rest of your life. And this requires a completely different game plan and a different plan of action. And today we want to bring some insight to you about retirement planning that has been going on in 2019 so that all of you, our viewers, are aware and know the proper steps to take so you don't get in trouble with your hard-earned dollars.
Well, I think this is very important, Chad, that some of these changes are going to have very big impacts on, retirees that are trying to save in some of these accounts, but more importantly, although other people that are going to inherit some of this money down the road as well.
Which is a huge one when we talk about inheriting those. We're talking trillions of dollars. They're going to be passed on. Those are some huge taxes and some huge consequences if you do not plan properly.
All right, well, change could be scary for a lot of people, but what kind of changes are we talking about, Chad?
So first of all, according to So Yin from an NBC News article, on May 23rd, 2019, the House passed the Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancements, or the Secure Act of 2019. If enacted into law, this could be tricky for Americans who are not financially savvy investors. You have to know what you're doing. So it is extremely important, Chad, to have a guide to help you along that retirement journey. And as we talked about earlier, there is a difference between financial planning and retirement planning, so you want to make sure you have a retirement specialist that you're working with.
Well, and I think with this new act, if it is passed, there's going to be some things that are very beneficial to investors out there in this new act, but also there's going to be some things that are very, very important for investors to know, because if we don't know about them, they're not going to be very beneficial at all.
All right, so gentlemen, what's the first change?
The first change in the Secure Act of 2019 may be, number one, it encourages more small employers to offer 401k plans. Simply put, many of the small employers or businesses that did not offer a 401k will likely have the opportunity to set one up for their employees, which is important because, again, we mentioned with pensions going away, with Social Security having its own problems, you want to make sure, no matter what size of your employer that you're working for, and if you are a small employer, you want to make sure that you're helping those employees.
Yeah, and I think we see it a lot of times. If an individual comes in, they're working for a small employer, they don't really have a retirement platform set up for their employees because maybe there's 10 or less employees in that firm. And this is something we also see, that maybe an employee is not taking advantage of an employer's option. So I think this is a good thing that some of these smaller companies and more investors out there are going to have the opportunity to start saving earlier.
Okay, and the second change is in relation to RMDs. What's this one?
The second is a big one. RMD is they're going to raise the age for the required minimum distributions from 7.5 to now 72. In other words, RMDs started back in 1987. So think about that. It's been 32 years since RMDs have been around, and this is the first time they're proposing, actually the second time they're proposing to raise the age, first of all, to 72. Back in 2001, when they came out with the new Uniform Life Table, at 70, they divided by your life expectancy, which was 27.4 years. In other words, what that means to you is you now have to draw 3.65% of your money out. However, back in 2001, the divisor was 16. So what you had to draw out back then, Chad, was 6.25%. So what that means, if your money wasn't making at least over 6%, you were basically dipping into your principal each and every year just to satisfy those RMDs. And we don't know what's going to happen if it becomes 72, what happens to that divisor now and how much you have to draw out.
Well, and I think it's important. This is something that, is a good thing. Back in 2001, they made these changes because, they started noticing people were living longer. Now they're coming to the table and realizing people are living even longer again, so they're going to maybe push this back. And as Chad mentioned, we're not sure how that divisor is going to work, but it's a good thing. I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of do this because of the life expectancies being longer today.
All right, well, the third change has to do with inheriting an IRA. What about this one?
Which is a huge one. So they're going to shorten the amount of time that someone who inherits an IRA or beneficiary that can hold on to those funds. Before, you could take that IRA or those retirement accounts, if you inherited those, and you could stretch the distribution over your lifetime, which is more time for your dollars to grow tax deferred and a smaller percentage of money that you, the beneficiary, had to draw out each and every year. With the new change, you have to drain an inherited IRA over a 10-year period, which, number one, gives you less time for that money on a tax-deferred basis, but also it's going to mean a lot more money, really, for the government, a lot more in tax, and that's why they're proposing that we do that. But if you have a large retirement account that you inherit, a $500 or $1 million account, that's a huge, huge change for you.
Yeah, and I think today the law states if you're a non-spouse beneficiary of an IRA, you have basically two options. You can set it up and stretch the tax burden out over the rest of your life and your life expectancy, or you have to take all that money out over a 5-year period, and that's what the law states today. What they're proposing is maybe taking away both of those and only giving that non-spouse beneficiary one option. They've got to take all that money out over a 10-year period, which is a lot of money. Uncle Sam probably just became one of the largest beneficiaries of that IRA that wasn't even on that beneficiary line.
Okay, and the last is adding annuities to 401k plans.
Yeah, we're seeing this definitely, adding annuities to 401k plans. For the past 26 years, when I first started in this business, I've witnessed a full 360 when it comes to annuities. Annuities was a bad word, it was taboo or a bad thing to talk about. But now, because most people don't have pensions today, less than 20% of American workers, now, if you want to make sure that you have an income stream that's going to last throughout the rest of your life, no matter how long you live, that's why they're bringing annuities and proposing that they be put into these 401ks, which in my opinion is a big change. Because the biggest thing is when you retire, make sure that you have an income stream that's going to last, whether it's 75, 85, or 105. And hopefully then, when you do pass away, you have something to pass on to your beneficiaries.
Well, and we talk about that secure bucket and basically making sure you have that income coming in. And understanding annuities aren't bad out there, especially if they're used properly to provide you that income that you cannot outlive.
All right, to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement, visit schlegelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Some more information for you there. Well, coming up on our Chalk Talk, we're going to discuss how to be proactive and not reactive when it comes to your retirement.
Hey, let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team.
Everybody in here.
That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just went over the 4 changes that could take place from the Secure Act of 2019. Now we want to discuss how to be proactive and not reactive when it comes to your retirement.
That's right, Wendy. I know some of these changes and rules, of course, can be very overwhelming, but our goal is not to overwhelm or confuse you. Instead, we want you to be aware of the possible changes that could be taking place in the retirement landscape moving forward and how they can or cannot help your personal retirement situation. And because these things can be overwhelming, we want to be clear that you do not want to be reactive when it comes to your retirement plan. You want to know what's coming
and rather be proactive and build a game plan to help guide you along the way. And in our office, we call this our financial GPS, or our guided planning system. It shows you how to get from point A to point B turn by turn. It gives you that goal, that plan of action, and then of course that deadline and how to get there. So that's what we want to talk about today, is that GPS, and also 3 or 4 things that you should be doing right now when it comes to your hard-earned dollars.
Well, and I think most importantly, when it comes to retirement, when it comes to planning for retirement, it's about giving you peace of mind. And I think Chad just talked about our GPS and our process that we guide our clients through. It kind of, more importantly, as they leave, they walk away with a lot of peace of mind as they have a plan in place.
All right, so let's just jump right in and tell our viewers how to be proactive rather than reactive.
So a lot of you sitting at home, if you're under 59 and a half and you have a 401k or a retirement plan through work, you want to make sure that you take the money that you have in that 401k and you want to make sure that you split that up into 2 different buckets. Number 1, what you've made, and number 2, what you can make. Now what I mean by that is if you're under 59 and a half, and let's say you have $500,000 sitting in your 401k, that's $500,000 that you've made that you do not want to lose. So you want to make sure you're investing that a little more conservatively. Now the new money that you're putting in every pay period, every 2 weeks when you get that paycheck, then you can afford to take a little more risk with that money. So that's very simply how you do that. Again, what you've made and what you can make. Number 2, if you're over 59 and a half, there's 2 things you definitely want to do. If you're over 59 and a half and you're still working, you can do what's called an in-service withdrawal. In other words, you can take some of that money, roll it over to an IRA, have no tax consequences, still keep your 401k or company plan opening, still keep pumping money that, because hopefully your employer's matching you. But the reason you want to take some of that money now and put into an IRA, even though you're still working, is of course, diversification. And as most of you know, inside of your 401k or company plan, you're very limited in what you can invest in. And it also gives you the whole financial universe at your fingertips to do what's best for you, not what's best for a company. And I think the biggest thing, Chad, again, it puts you in control of your money, not your employer. And you want to take as much money off that table as you can the closer you get to retirement.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, control and putting you in control of your money and not really that plan or the company. And I think one other thing we're seeing a lot of today is, some of these 401ks, 403bs, these platforms, they're making changes. They're going to a new third-party administrator. They're changing, and now all of a sudden these employees that have had this old plan for the last 20 plus years are now having to make decisions to move into a new plan. And I think at that point you have options. You need to educate yourself, and you need to be able to take control of that money that you have now, as Chad mentioned, the money you've already made.
All right, so what's the second thing we need to do?
The second thing is, again, as you get closer to retirement, of course, you want to insulate your portfolio from a downturn in the market, but you want to take a look at your portfolio, that lump sum that you have when you retire, and you want to make sure you separate that into 3 different buckets. Number 1 would be the secure bucket. In other words, money you have here you cannot lose, and that can provide, of course, you want to make sure enough money sitting in that secure bucket. If you need income, that's going to give you an income stream that you can never outlive. The second is the growth bucket. This is money that you have set aside, of course, to grow. It's there to keep up the rate of inflation and cost of living, but you want to make sure that that money is set up in good, solid companies that, of course, pay good dividends, again, as you get closer to retirement. Of course, that third bucket is what we call that dream bucket or that extra bucket.
Yeah, and I think when you think about this, you think about any kind of professional team out there, you have different parts of that team. You have different positions, and you need all of those positions working together to be very successful. And I think these 3 buckets, when you look at your money, you have to have all 3 to be successful in retirement.
Okay, what do we do when it comes to life insurance?
So the dream bucket that we just talked about, the secure bucket, the growth bucket, that dream bucket is that extra bucket. Maybe that's money that you want to make sure that's set aside for your children, your grandchildren, your churches, whoever your beneficiaries may be, in the most tax advantageous manner. Maybe it's money that you have set aside for a second home. But one of the things we talk about with that dream bucket, that extra bucket, when we talk about life insurance, and because of some of the changes that are coming with the Secure Act, how do you take this lump sum that you've worked all your life for, that is in qualified IRA or 401k monies, and since the government's going to make you dwindle through that money, how do you pass that on to your beneficiaries? And one way that you do that, of course, is using life insurance. Now, 20 years ago, life insurance, Chad, was basically there to cover debt or to take care of your spouse if something happened to you. But there's a lot of other benefits when it comes to life insurance. You could use life insurance for max death benefit. Make sure you have assets passed on tax-free to your beneficiaries. Could be if you're 46 years of age like I am and you're pumping money into life insurance to cover debt in case something happens. But oh, by the way, here 20 years later, I'm 66. If I'm still here, I want to be able to take that cash value back out. Or now what we find a lot is life insurance with long-term care.
Yeah, and I think this is something that's changed probably over the last 5 to 8 years, that now this life insurance can do two things. It can kind of leave that legacy tax-free to your beneficiaries, but also, by the way, if you can't perform to the 6 activities of daily living and you need some of that death benefit to cover some of those long-term care costs, you have that ability as well. And I think that's been very beneficial for a lot of retirees to learn some of those new changes when it came to life insurance.
Some important information, and there's more if you download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit slagelefinancial.com/empoweryou. When we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to show you how to be proactive in retirement by using their 4-step GPS process. Stay tuned.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you how to be proactive and not reactive in retirement by using our 4-step GPS process, our guided planning system. And just like any GPS, the GPS you have in your car, we take a look at where you're at now, where you want to be, and we will basically build a plan of step-by-step exactly how to get there. And that's what we're talking about today, Chad, on our show. A goal without a plan is a wish. So what we want to talk about today is our 4-step GPS process, what the 4 steps are, and why they are so important, number one, to have the plan, but also how to implement the plan.
You know, and I remember the first thing when we started setting goals, whether it's personal or anything, you had to put it down in writing. And like you just said, it kind of made me think you're exactly right. If you don't have it in place, it's really just a wish. And I think going back, step number 1, clarity. This is probably the most important. Number 1 step is just having clarity with your plan.
Understanding where you're at. People ask us all the time, you know, do I have enough to retire? Can I retire on time? And the answer is we have no idea because we don't know exactly where you're at and we don't know exactly what your goals are. So the first thing, again, step 1, create clarity. Know exactly where you are and where you want to be. And also what kind of concerns you have. Number 2, step 2 would be analyze. Of course, we have to analyze the risk you're taking. We need to know what fees you're paying. We need to know what kind of investment vehicles you have right now if we can even get to the point where you want to be. And of course, number 3, Chad, evaluate. When we evaluate your situation, we want to take a look at the vehicles you have. If there's some good things we definitely want to keep, but the bad things that we want to get rid of.
And I think what we often see is step number 2 and step number 3. Number 1, people don't even have an idea of when they come in, what kind of risk they're taking. Have an idea of what kind of fees they're paying, not to mention what's good or bad in their plan. And I think this is so important, not only for us to educate ourselves, but for the investor, for you to educate yourself.
It's definitely an eye-opener when we see this with people. Like, I had no idea I was paying that in fees. I had no idea I was taking that much risk. I really didn't know exactly where I was at. So it does, again, it gives you that clarity. And number 4, once we know your goals,
Once we identify where you're at, where you want to be, and then of course at that point, Chad, we want to do step 4, which is implement, put that plan into action.
And this is where we kind of find, as you go through this process, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's an education process for you. You walk away with a plan, you walk away with peace of mind, and you feel pretty good and connected with when it comes to your hard-earned dollars you've just spent all your life building.
No question. Are you going through retirement alone or with the wrong guy? Do you need help creating a GPS that will get you successfully to and through retirement? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slaglefinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. We'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today.
Coach Chad Slagle and join.
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice. Appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning. In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have equity.
Back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot of ground today. What would you say are some of the key takeaways, Chad?
Number 1, Wendy, understand the changes that are coming from the Secure Act of 2019 and how they may affect you. Number 2, make sure you have all 3 buckets set up for your retirement. The secure bucket, the growth bucket, and that dream bucket or that extra bucket. And remember, a goal without a plan is a wish.
One more reminder to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit slaglefinancial.com/empoweryou. Well, Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area as well to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. From my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.
Clothing for the Chad Slagle Show is provided by AL Custom Clothiers, a custom men's clothier that understands the value of offering our customers the best for less. ALCustomClothiers.com or 314-570-6000.